Hey folks, it's Carl over at Sterling Health and Fitness, and thanks for tuning in. So we're here at the Independent Training Spot in Manhattan, and our topic today is going to be yoga. In fact, this is going to be a whole playlist of different segments about yoga, and our first segment is going to be about the benefits of yoga. And so I have a special guest with me today, someone who has been teaching yoga for several years. She is a yoga teacher, a movement specialist, and I'm real happy to welcome Ariana Rabinovitch to our program. Thanks so much for taking this time.
Thank you.
I've been looking forward to get together and meeting with you. I know that you're doing great things in the world of yoga here, and you get rave reviews from everyone I talk with. So I actually wanted to ask you a little bit about your history before we even get into the benefits too, because you mentioned off camera you've been practicing yoga for about 20 years?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching for 6 years.
Awesome. Cool. And you're here in Manhattan teaching primarily, right?
Exclusively, yes. In Manhattan, yeah.
That's cool. Now, if I remember right, you were saying that you also are doing some, you're getting into the continuing education area?
Yes. Yeah, that's something that's in the works. I'm partnering with another business called Smarter Bodies. Two awesome women, Lean Kendall
Awesome.
and Mel Gutierrez, and we're creating continuing education courses and workshops for all kinds of fitness professionals.
Oh, that sounds great. So, yeah, I know there's a need for more teachers out there too who are really teaching some good stuff. This actually might be something I'm interested in down the road, just
Cool.
to expand my knowledge, because as we were talking beforehand, I want to know everything.
Me too. I have the same affliction.
I just want to know it all, and we never will, and that's the beauty of it, is there's always more to learn. So let's, in this first segment, I would love to just cover some of the benefits.
Okay.
Now, a lot of us already know some of the benefits, and there are people who don't know too.
Mm-hmm.
They've heard about it, and they're kind of like, I don't know if I want to try this, just like it is with a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
But you're the expert, and I would love to hear from you. What are the primary benefits of doing yoga?
It's a loaded question
Mm-hmm.
because it kind of depends on who you ask.
Mm-hmm.
And yoga has a very long history, and there's the big yoga, which is much more than the physical practice that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
And yoga dates back 5,000 years in different forms, and not necessarily the poses we do today.
Mm-hmm.
But originally, the purpose of yoga was to reach enlightenment, and it was for psychological benefit,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And fast forward to today,
Mm-hmm.
5,000 years.
Today's quick-paced society.
Quick-paced society. We have quick-paced yoga in that's
Really?
very, very popular.
I
Yeah,
didn't
power
know that.
yoga.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Vinyasa.
Yeah.
It's all very, very fast-paced
Oh, okay.
to satisfy those needs that we have. But for me, what I focus on for what I think our society needs and our general population is the eliciting the relaxation response, which is accessing your parasympathetic nervous system. I like to
Okay.
think of the nervous system as a pendulum,
Mm-hmm.
and ideally, we start at the middle. Sometimes we get stressed out. We're in the sympathetic nervous system. We swing back, and we counter that with relaxation, and we have the parasympathetic nervous system.
Okay.
Unfortunately, instead of being here today, we're more not parasympathetic. We're more stressed.
Mm-hmm.
This is our new normal, and we think we have to do more. We're stressed out. We're pressed for time, and we forget that we need to chill out.
Right.
And
Right.
swing things
Very
back
common.
the other way. It's very,
Yeah.
very common, and I have this also. So I like to use yoga for that, to help people swing the pendulum back the other way, to relax.
Mm-hmm.
And when you relax, you have more energy, to go back into that,
Right.
those stress zones, and you have more reserves to call on. So that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is to improve our movement quality. So how we move today, and that's, I could unpack that a little bit, but I think that being aware of how you move
Mm-hmm.
and things things like proprioception, your sense of your body moving in space,
Right.
and just having awareness of how you feel and how different parts of your body feel is really important. It's hugely important. And it's part of the movement quality package. And also because of our society today, we're obsessed with media. We're very externally focused.
True.
We've got our gadgets, we've got entertainment, everything is external. And so we've lost that internal awareness, and I see it getting worse and worse. Young people to older people that come into my classes, and to take the time, focus inward for a while instead, it has a ton of benefit that reflects back on the movement quality. Yeah.
Interesting, that connection. And we were talking about movement in general and how important it is to move efficiently and effectively and safely. And so you're seeing a connection with being internally focused along with better movement.
Absolutely.
It's funny, that actually makes sense, but I hadn't thought about that. That's an interesting correlation. What are some, I have a couple notes here, so I want to ask you what are some other benefits, but actually a couple of them that I wanted to talk about is we both share an interest in the barefoot activation. You've worked with, been through Dr. Emily's course. I was too, the Barefoot Rehab thing. You
love it.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was a little bit obsessed with feet before I met Emily and got to experience her course because my grandfather was a podiatrist and I was very close with him.
Okay.
And he taught me some basic things that stuck with me for life that I think affected my health overall. So I always recognize the foot as the foundation for a lot of things in terms of our well-being. And then I heard about Emily's course, so I took her course and learned some of the science behind it. And I love the fact that there are more nerve endings in your feet than in your hands, and that us wearing padded shoes and heavy shoes that create more space and more desensitization between our skin and the ground, it has a direct effect to how things work upstairs.
Right.
So we lose core function, we lose glute activation a lot of times. And so taking your shoes off and having your feet on different kinds of surfaces, it stimulates those different kinds of nerve endings that we have in the feet.
Right.
And it starts to have an effect of the kinetic chain into how our musculoskeletal system functions. So,
which affects our movement.
You could say it affects your frame of mind, it affects how you're feeling, and we're talking a little bit in the beginning how I work out now, all of my workouts, I'm talking weights, I'm talking about my yoga stuff. Yeah. I do everything barefoot whenever I can because it's a huge difference.
Me too. That's great. So I do something similar whenever I'm in a gym or I'm allowed to be barefoot and work out. I'll do the same thing because I think it improves the quality of my workout a whole lot. Like Dr. Emily says, there's the skin on the bottom of the foot is the sole thing that connects us to the earth, to the ground, and then like you say, there are more nerve endings in the bottom of the foot than anywhere, or more than the hand certainly, and it has such a major effect on quality of my workouts, quality of my movement, activation of lumbo-pelvic hip complex, core, glutes, everything. So I like barefoot. Everybody out there who knows me knows I like barefoot.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. So other benefits. Maybe we can talk a little bit about breathing.
Yeah, the breathing, it has the ability to improve breathing. And for me, that ties into the movement quality picture. Because if you're breathing better, it creates a solid foundation, like the feet. Like I think breath and feet are two really important things that I focus on with people. But traditionally there's something called pranayama in yoga, which is breath control, or some people like to think of it as letting go of the control of your breath, like getting out of your way of your breathing, because a lot of times we have so much tension, that we don't take a proper breath. So if we can get out of our own way, the breath starts to happen. So there are all kinds of techniques within pranayama, things that can elevate your energy, things that can calm you down more, things that are purported to balance your nervous system with like certain nostril breathing and stuff.
Okay.
But I've experimented with a lot of it, and over the years, and seeing the different people coming into my classes, even if they're regular yogis that do breath work, like pranayama work, I still see breath dysfunction. And so I started to read more about the breath and research it more, just anatomically what's happening and what would an optimal breath look like, and how bad is it that we have all this breath dysfunction. And I learned it's pretty bad. So I try to focus on optimal breathing techniques, the simplest ones in all of my classes. Yeah, which gets into the 3D breathing thing. I don't know if you want to go there now.
I want to talk about 3D breathing, but let's save that.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's going to be a link on the screen though to the 3D segment of this series, because I want to make sure people know it's there, because it sounds, it's really interesting. So breathing, we covered that, and
can you say a little bit more about the breathing?
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
And I think going back to the relaxation response that yoga can elicit, the breath is very much a part of that. And the breath dysfunction that I see is tightness in the chest or in the belly, and very restricted breath. I see you taking a bigger breath now.
Actually, I am. It's so funny. I was just thinking about I need to breathe.
So if you're not breathing optimally, it will create more stress in your body. So if you can find ways to breathe more optimally, it elicits that relaxation response in your body.
Interesting. Okay.
So you can
it's funny
back to the parasympathetic side of things.
Yeah, when you started talking about that, I was thinking about my posture, because I think I was leaning forward a little.
I do that too.
And I'm thinking, I was driving a lot, and this hand I tend to drive like this, and so I tend to sometimes sit like this, even though I don't want to, but I feel really tight in my back and my chest today, and whatever. And then I realize I'm not even breathing while we're talking. My breaths are so shallow. So you got me breathing. It's good.
Cool.
We need to be thinking about that more on a regular basis, all the time. Can we touch on flexibility?
Yeah.
Can you share with us about any thoughts about flexibility in relation to yoga?
Yeah, yoga obviously is great for enhancing, improving flexibility. And we can talk about what flexibility means. Is it in your muscles? Is it the ability for your muscles to lengthen with certain movements? Or is it more about joints, and joints being able to move within certain ranges of motion? And again, in the general population, what I do see is a lot of rigidity in the shoulders and the hips. They're just kind of stuck, maybe from driving in one position or sitting for too long in hip flexion. So yoga can be a great way to, depending on the class and the style of yoga that you're taking, it can be a good way to maintain healthy ranges of motion in your joints, especially if you have a more sedentary lifestyle, which most of us tend to have.
A lot of people do.
A lot of people have that. So it can be a great way to maintain, improve flexibility. But as I was saying to you earlier, that I think flexibility is overrated, and if I had to choose one, being super flexible, super bendy, and being super stable and super strong, I would hands down choose super strong, because I think it's more functional, more stable, and longer lasting. And studies show that people who are very flexible, especially I think it's women who are hypermobile, tend to get injured, especially in yoga classes, because flexibility is, I don't want to say it's, I'm trying to think of the right word. It's idealized in yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taught as something that we should all have, and that we should have maximum ranges of motion, and like it's somehow
So
tied.
to be encouraged to go the extra,
Yeah.
maybe push too hard.
Push too hard.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of language in mainstream yoga classes, like deepen your practice and always going to your edge so that you always feel a stretch. And I know you're not a yoga person, so you're not privy to that, but I see it all the time.
Yeah.
And that kind of language, and especially for people who might have a lifetime yoga practice, you don't always want to go to your edge. You shouldn't always feel a stretch, and you don't always want to deepen your stretches, because that's when you get into laxity and unstable joints.
Well, I'm with you on if I had to choose too. What I see in the older population I work with often is the stabilization being an issue, which of course we all know. The older somebody gets, they fall down and break a hip, for example. A lot of times, I hate to say it, but it's true, the spiral downward begins in quality of life, quality of movement, quality of overall health. You know, they start moving less because they can't move as much, and they get heavier or whatever. There are a lot of complications that can come out of it, and a lot of times it just came from not being stable. You know, so I choose stability. Are there any other benefits you would want to share in this segment?
I think that yoga is great for recovery when it comes to training. Like for someone like yourself who's a personal trainer, and people who are interested in functional training, I think it's a great way to complement your physical endeavors. And going back to things that are idealized in the yoga community, often there are things that are said like you should have a yoga practice every single day. There was a Instagram campaign, might get in trouble here, yoga every damn day, something like that. No, you don't need yoga every damn day. That's a good way to get injury.
Yeah.
And I'd say I have a colleague, Jules Mitchell. She says yoga every third day. That's awesome. 2-3 times a week, balance out whatever kind of physical endeavors you're doing, and it's a good way again to help you recover, maintain flexibility, and improve your quality of movement.
Awesome, that's great. Well, Go, this is a great, appreciate you sharing on this segment about benefits of yoga. So stay tuned, folks, because we're going to go into styles and a couple other segments too in just a minute. But before I close out here in this segment, I just want to, your website is arianayoga.com, where you can have access to podcasts too. The link will be on the screen. We're coming back at you here in another segment in just a minute. Thanks for watching.